My name is Tomy Shaw, and here today I'll be talking about Power versus Force, the Hidden Determinants of Human Behavior by David R. Hawkins. So, yes, this book is life changing. Everybody needs to read this book because once you read this book, you'll view life in another way. It shows you how your level of consciousness is viewing your outside world. Like everything you live, feel, anything you feel in your life, it's because of your level of consciousness. And if you can understand why you're living and why you're feeling like despair or anything, you can understand why you are living in that state of consciousness. So the book goes from explaining the map of consciousness, like the whole book goes through a series of all the levels of consciousness. Essentially, there's two types of consciousness. There's a type of consciousness where there is power, and, and the other one is force. You're gonna force the world to do what you want to have in life. And it's very hard. You can't get results. You're not getting results because people don't want to follow you. You're using anger, you're using desire, fear, and most of the people are living like there's a lot of people that live around level of 200 in the world, but anything that's underneath pride or courage is you're gonna have an inflation, like your ego is gonna be very strong, you're gonna be indifferent. Like if you're living in the world of anger, usually anger is a side effect of having a lot of desire. You're craving and you're not really in a state of joy or love or peace, which makes you angry because you feel like you're not complete. You feel like you need more in life, and this brings you to feel anger. Anger is a better emotion than desire or fear, grief, but it's still a low form of consciousness. So you know when you desire, you become enslavement because like let's say it has to do with food or anything with low consciousness level, well, you're enslaved to those desires. And the same thing with people that are feeling in shame, guilt, apathy. Like imagine if you're feeling in shame or guilt, you feel like you're guilty for everything in your life. Most of the time what happens is that as a child you were blamed. You had put on that guilt. Your mother or father has given you that guilt because maybe they didn't want to have a child, and now you feel guilty and you go around life feeling guilty all the time. This is something that you're not supposed to be feeling because you're not guilty for what your parents did. If they had a mistake and they made you, that's not your fault. You don't have to walk around with that guilt. Now let's look at how can we go from lower states of consciousness to higher states of consciousness. Well, it takes a lot of courage. It takes empowerment. You need to retake your power and you need to become aware that you can create the life that you want. And this can be done essentially by being neutral, just releasing like all the guilt that you have and not living with that because the way to get to higher levels of consciousness is usually by letting go, acceptance, forgiveness. Once you start forgiving your past and accepting it, then you can go to levels of reasoning. Because if you're living in lower states of consciousness, what happens is that your emotions control your life. You have too many emotional issues which blur your vision and you're not able to see clearly, and you're really not able to think. You're not able to focus, so your reason isn't there yet. You're not able to understand and see life from a way of truth. And because here everything above in the power zone is truth, everything down here is almost all lies, but your ego isn't able to see the difference between the truth and lies. Only when you become like lovingness, when you take care of other people, or the one state above is joy. I've felt this many times in my life. Every time I just become very grateful for everything that happens in my life, I start to resonate, and this increases my level of joy. Like it feels like there's a certain power that goes through your body, and you become very activated on a cellular basis, and you can feel your whole body, and it gives you this feeling of bliss. It's just amazing. Like once you felt this emotion, you will know what I'm talking about, because it's just very powerful and uplifting. And if you keep going in this level of peace and joy, you can get to higher states of consciousness where you essentially leave your body. And this happened to me in 2015, where I was experiencing joy, and this voice asked me if I kept going, I was going to go out of my body. And I did. What I saw is that I was a spiritual being. Like I was light. I was a person that was emitting light, and I could not tell the difference between me and my environment. So that was an awakening for me, but I don't understand why I lived that. I don't understand. So I can't say why it happened, but the only thing I know is that it's very scary, and every time I know I'm about to get out of my body, I don't do it anymore, because I've got really scared with that environment. It was not something I was expecting. And higher the highest level of consciousness is enlightenment. You are, life is, it is perfect the way it is. You can't change it. It's pure consciousness, yourself. You're seeing the true being that you are, which is the soul. You're not in the identifying with your body anymore. You see life through the lens of your soul. So you are not attached to material anymore. You will still live with material. You will still have that nice house, and usually the higher levels of consciousness you are in, it is easier for you to attract wealth in your life, because when you're in a state of joy and love, it's very easy for you to be creative. So that's it for the book review of Power versus Force. I really recommend reading this book. It's life changing. It made me aware of my level of consciousness and how I fluctuate through time during the day or during the night, or if I do something that's not in alignment with my soul, or the food that I eat, anything, the television that I watch. If I watch something that's not good for me, then I feel it right away. So thank you. Have a nice day. Hopefully this helps you guys and makes you more aware of different levels of consciousness.